Have you ever wondered why we're all grieving a childhood we can't return to? Not missing it, not longing for it, but grieving it, like something precious was taken from us before we even realized what it meant? We scroll through old photos, old songs, old memories, and we feel that strange ache in our chest like a ghost of who we used to be is trying to reach us. We remember the afternoons that felt endless, the nights that felt magical, the mornings when we woke up excited for absolutely no reason. And the older we get, the more we realize that childhood wasn't just a phase of life. It was a feeling, a world, a universe we lived in without understanding its value. And then one day, silently and without warning, it closed behind us. The truth is, most of us don't actually want to go back to being children. We want to go back to being the version of ourselves that existed before the world taught us how heavy living could become. We miss who we were before comparison, before pressure, before expectations, before fear. Before all the little disappointments that adulthood quietly stacks on our shoulders. We miss the version of ourselves that laughed without holding back, the version that played without checking the time, the version that dreamed without calculating the risk, the version that felt everything in full color, not watered down, not filtered, not hidden. As we grow older, the world takes things from us, not physically, but emotionally. Childhood is full of invisible treasures. We don't realize our treasures until we lose them. Think back. Remember how present you were. When you were playing, you were only playing. When you were with friends, you were fully there. Your mind wasn't running laps around bills, deadlines, responsibilities, or what people thought of you. You were allowed to exist in the moment without guilt. That presence was a gift, a rare one, and adulthood slowly strips it away. It's like how Coraline explores the other world with wide eyes, absorbing everything without the weight of worry or fear, until she realizes not everything magical is safe. As adults, we start living like Coraline at the end of the film, alert, guarded, always checking what's real and what's a trap. We also used to live with wonder. Everything felt new, magical, full of possibility. A tree wasn't just a tree, it was a kingdom, a spaceship, a hiding place. Rain wasn't an inconvenience, it was an adventure. A cardboard box wasn't trash, it was a castle, a car, a portal. Back then, the world wasn't something to survive. It was something to explore. But somewhere along the line, the wonder faded. Not because it wasn't there anymore, but because we were told to grow up, to act our age, to stop dreaming and start working. So we shrink ourselves. We stop seeing magic in ordinary things. We trade our imagination for logic, our curiosity for routines, our excitement for productivity. Coraline's story captures this perfectly. A child who wants more color, more attention, more magic, only to learn that adulthood isn't evil, just heavy, demanding, lonely, complicated. And let's be honest, the other world in Coraline wasn't scary because of monsters. It was scary because it represented the illusion of a perfect life, something adults chase endlessly, even when it's costing them pieces of themselves. If this resonates with you, take a moment to tap like, leave a comment with your favorite childhood memory, and subscribe. Another thing childhood offered us, maybe the most important, was emotional safety. Not safety in the physical sense, but in the emotional sense. When we were children, we were allowed to feel, to cry without embarrassment, to laugh too loudly, to ask questions, to be confused, to be scared, to be honest about our emotions without being judged as dramatic or sensitive. As adults, we learn to hide. We bottle things up. We say, "I'm fine," because it's easier than explaining the 1,000 thoughts we're carrying. We numb ourselves because being honest feels dangerous. We stop opening up because somewhere along the way, vulnerability became a weakness instead of a human need. And every time we bury our feelings, we drift further away from the child who once felt everything freely. In Coraline, every adult around her is distracted, overwhelmed, or disconnected, not because they're bad, but because life has worn them down. And that's the part no one wants to admit. We didn't just grow up. We grew guarded. There's also the freedom from comparison, something we never realized was priceless. As kids, we didn't look at another child's life and feel inferior. We didn't see someone's toy or clothes or family situation and question our worth. We didn't measure ourselves against others. We were enough simply by existing. Then adulthood turned life into a competition. In Coraline's world, she begins to compare the real world to the other world, wishing her parents were more fun, wishing life was more colorful, wishing everything was easier. But she learns the same lesson we all eventually learn. Comparison creates illusions, illusions create disappointment, and nothing perfect is ever free. But maybe the darkest reason we miss our childhood is because it's the only time in our lives when we were allowed to be ourselves without performing. Before we became versions of ourselves built for acceptance. Before we learned which parts of us to hide to fit in. Before we carried the fear of embarrassment or failure. Childhood is the only chapter where we lived unapologetically, not because we were brave, but because we didn't yet know the world would punish authenticity. We didn't know how judgment felt. We didn't know how shame felt. We didn't know how rejection felt. We didn't know the cost of being different, so we were free, and we didn't even know it. Coraline stays true to herself even when everything tries to shape her into someone obedient, someone blind, someone controlled. As adults, many of us lose that fight. Think about the characters we grew up with, especially Coraline. They weren't just stories. They were warnings disguised as magic, lessons disguised as adventure. The brave kid who faces the darkness alone teaches us about fear. The lonely child who finds comfort in unexpected places teaches us about belonging. The one who loses something precious teaches us about grief long before we understand it. Coraline taught us something deeper than most people realize. Sometimes the world offers you a perfect illusion, just to see if you know yourself well enough to walk away. As adults, we suddenly recognize the meaning behind those stories, and the realization hits us harder than we expected. They were trying to tell us the truth all along, that life gets heavier, dreams get quieter, the world gets louder, and we don't always stay connected to who we once were. We didn't know that one day the friends we couldn't live without would become strangers. We didn't know that the places that felt like home would change or disappear. We didn't know that our parents were aging right in front of us. We didn't know that we were living in the last chapter of something magical, and it would end without a warning or a goodbye. Just like Coraline didn't know she was walking into the last moments of her innocence before confronting something that would change her forever. If this feels like the truth you didn't know how to say, hit like so more people can find it too. Childhood is the only time in our lives when we experience things for the first time. First joy, first fear, first discovery, first love, first heartbreak. Even if we didn't understand it, those firsts shape us, imprinting emotions we spend years trying to recreate but can never replicate. There's something about the first time that nothing ever matches. And here's the part no one wants to admit. As adults, most of our days feel the same, routine, predictable, repetitive. But childhood? Every day felt different, a new story, a new adventure, a new memory. We were growing so fast that life changed constantly, and with it, so did we. Maybe that's why time feels slower when we're young, because every moment is new. And maybe that's why time feels faster now, because we're living the same days over and over. Part of us aches for the excitement we didn't realize we were experiencing. Part of us aches for the simplicity. Part of us aches for the person we used to be when the world felt full of possibility instead of pressure. But there's also something else. Something deeper. We miss childhood because it's the only version of life where we didn't know what we had to lose. We didn't understand that love could end, that people could leave, that dreams could fall apart, that happiness wasn't permanent, that our own minds could become our enemies. Back then, happiness felt normal. Now it feels like something we're constantly trying to chase. And maybe the darkest truth is this: we don't miss childhood, we miss being unbroken. We miss the parts of ourselves that life hasn't touched yet. The parts that weren't disappointed. The parts that weren't betrayed. The parts that didn't overthink. The parts that didn't question their worth. The parts that trusted easily. The parts that believed good things would stay. We miss the version of ourselves that didn't carry invisible wounds. The version that didn't have scars no one sees. The version that didn't have quiet battles every single day. But here's the twist. The part no one talks about. The child we miss isn't gone. They're still inside us, hidden, buried, waiting. Every time you laugh until your stomach hurts, that's them. Every time you get excited about something small, that's them. Every time you feel wonder, curiosity, imagination, even for a second, that's them. Every time you dream, hope, believe, that's them. Every time you choose joy, even when life is heavy, that's them trying to reach you. Growing up doesn't mean losing the child inside you, it means learning to protect them. We can rebuild presence by slowing down. We can rebuild wonder by paying attention to the small things. We can rebuild imagination by allowing ourselves to dream again. Maybe the goal was never to return to childhood. Maybe the goal is to reconnect with the parts of ourselves we abandoned along the way. And if you're listening to this right now, maybe that's your sign to start. To breathe, to feel, to remember, to come home to yourself. Because the dark reason we all miss our childhood is simple. It was the last time we felt whole. But that doesn't mean we can't feel whole again. And if this reminded you of something you forgot you needed, stay close. We make videos like this every Friday, stories that help you rediscover the parts of life the world makes you forget. If you want to come with us, you know what to do. Until then, take care of the child inside you. They've been waiting for you.